I'd prefer not to take the role of the person who gives you answers and opinions, who says you what is wrong and what is right, but rather of someone who invites you to take a closer look to the question in order to get new perspectives. I hope that this could add some more questions to your work, to your personal relationship, and to your life. As a person who had two lives, the actual one as a trainer, as a yoga teacher, more related to the human dimension, and the previous one immersed in the technological dimension as a former manager of an Italian unicorn company called Youth Group, I usually love to explore the liminal spaces we are living in close relationship with the body. So does the body mark the boundary between the analog and the digital world? It could be the link between the two worlds. As a trainer, as a person, as an educator, I reflect upon the way technology is shaping our life, influencing our relationship with ourselves, with others, with our life. How can we create a generative dialogue with young people we work with around this topic? Should we fear technology innovation in order to preserve and save our humanity? Setting issue in binary terms seems limiting to me. Any answer would necessarily end with the exclusion of one of the two terms. It blocks us from finding new questions. Therefore, I suggest we step away from the ambition to be certain. I invite you to take advantage of the tension created by the questions and to move with me from one polarity to the other and vice versa, so to observe with new eyes, with no prejudice, with the curiosity to discover new points of view. One thing that really strikes me in the dialectic between body and technology, human and not human, is that the question seems to impose itself immediately as an ethical problem. On one side, it's a certain idea of good related to the body, to nature, to what is human, and on the other side, the evil, a danger represented by technological innovation. Stop playing video games and go out to play with your friends. We are immersed in a fast technological transformation. We are immersed in a fast-paced environment. We might find ourselves frightened by the speed of change. Probably not all of us are enjoying the ride. Now, let's try to move on the opposite pole, and let's try to observe the body. If we look from the outside, while we are in relation with technological tools, the body remains here, in front of a screen, which is a kind of door to another dimension. So, let's go back to the initial question. Does the body set a boundary between the analog and the digital world? Yes, it marks a limit. Might the body be the link, the communication tool within the two? Let's observe the body while interacting with the technology. And let's look for more questions. As we said before, the body cannot enter the digital world. If this is true, while the body is here, which part of us is interacting there? And which part comes back here after making experience there? What is the experience there, and what are the effects on the body? What happens when we play a video game for hours? What happens to a 12-year-old kid after he plays a video game, the same video games, for 9 hours in a row? What happens to our body when he remains empty of our presence and attention for hours? That here is not even a place. It is a certain way of being in the present moment experience. For example, where are you now? Where is your body? Are you breathing? Where is your breath moving in your body? Can you feel the sensation in your feet? See? See how easy it is to leave the body behind, and you are not even in relation with the technological tool, unless you are getting bored of my speech. So we get distracted, and we forget that this is not a direct consequence of the technology. This is a choice. Even if we are not aware this is a choice, we are not victims. We can choose to stay present in every single moment. It is just a practice. I am a presence activist. My work is all about attention. Attention is the difference between a life you observe from a distance and the life you live. Attention is the most precious resource in our life. It is a fundamental challenge for the sustainability of life. Attention is a fundamental resource for the sustainability of life. My work is also about change. How can we teach young people to pivot from being victims of this fast change to being the shapers of it? I would say it better. How can we learn together how to pivot from being victims of this fast change to be the shapers of it? By releasing the binary of wrong and right, we could pay attention to the whole complexity of our life. When we become present, we can accept our life exactly as it is in all its complexity. We might accept the tension of living in this complexity, and we might find out that there are changes available to us that are distinct to this time. When we become present to the opportunities that are current, we can actively embrace change in ways that are both sustainable for our personal freedom and for the earth. The crisis we have lived through the last 20 years are all dramatic invitations to go beyond the human, not human dualism. This dualism has been the basis of human knowledge for centuries. The collapse of this polarized way of thinking drives us into a completely different existential condition. We find ourselves stepping into the sphere of the unknown. We are constantly confronting ourselves with what is still unknown, with what we are not yet mapped out, with what we cannot control. So, how do we need to transform ourselves in order to transform the world? What do we need to know? What do we need to practice to shape the future we are longing for? As human beings, we are not at the center of the universe anymore. We are just one link in a bigger chain, the chain of life that keeps us together with other living species. It is time not only to take care of the other living species, but also to assume their perspectives. We must learn to decenter ourselves, learn to look through the eyes of the others, through the eyes of all the living species, as a resource for a new way to behave and to create. If we became able to remove us far from the center, we can then turn our current fragility into a strength, into a new intelligence. To face a challenge like this, we need to embrace complexity. And to do that could be useful to reframe our reality and to start thinking in terms of systems. Our body, our cities, the environment, teams, groups, companies, organizations, they are all systems. What makes them all systems? As Russell Ackoff, a pioneer in the field of system thinking, explains, a system is not the sum of the behavior of its parts. It's the product of their interactions. So, system thinking asks us to be rooted in the needs and motivation of the individual without ever losing sight of the wider dynamic at the level of the collective, the system. We are asked to practice a dynamic, adaptive movement from the individual to the collective, from the collective to the individual, back and forth, back and forth. At an individual level, we are asked to bring awareness to personal needs, purposes, motivations, intention, and to value individual talents, encouraging them to get aware of their strengths and to help them to leverage on their personal resources. At a system level, we are asked to map the connection, the interaction between the stakeholders of the system, to observe the way in which individual talents relate to one another. This will help us to create a shared perception of reality so that changes can be co-created and co-initiated and then shared with our companions, especially with the young people we work with. So let's start by increasing our individual awareness, so to bring the desired change into reality at a larger level, into our systems, into our organizations, into our lives. We live in a broken, fragmented world. We lack a perspective, a clear vision of the future. Being thrown in the short-term horizon of the present makes us feel limited, blind, overwhelmed by uncertainty. So we became aware of our fragility. We've been moving into duality for so long that we ended up relating to the unknown as a land to progressively conquer and dominate. So we missed out completely the point. The unknown is an existential condition to inhabit and to explore without any ambition. Let's move into a more sustainable relationship with the uncertainty, with the unknown, by assuming the attitude of a flaneur. This way, we can move away from our fear of the unknown, start looking at it as a fertile soil, a liminal space in which different disciplines can grow and flourish together. Let's encourage young people to move into the future, which is, of course, is not anymore predictable, as if it is a blank canvas, a space of possibility. This is a more sustainable way to create knowledge and could be the basis for a new culture which constantly takes the unknown into close consideration, sometimes embracing it, sometimes crossing through, sometimes avoiding it, but always accepting its presence in our lives. Let's become committed to constantly practice a dynamic, adaptive movement from the individual to the collective and vice versa. Let's invite young people to practice this movement with us. And let's get curious to listen carefully to what they see and observe. Let's assume their point of view and their perspective with curiosity and not prejudice, as a resource to co-create a new world. Let's practice presence and empathy by developing our own self-awareness while staying open and available to the complexity of our reality. Let's not just limit ourselves to naively dream of future scenarios. Let's embrace change and keep moving into the unknown while curiously meeting the new that wants to emerge. Let's challenge ourselves to reread and to rewrite the narratives we inherited from the past, so to create new meanings and formulate new hypotheses, build a new future and inspire new actions. Fragility can then be turned into an opportunity for growth, into an opportunity to meet the future together. Any knowledge that doesn't lead to new question quickly dies out. It fails to maintain the temperature required for sustaining life. Thank you.